Welcome to I Drink Your Podcast, where we drink and talk about movies from 2007.
The fourth dimension will collapse upon itself, you stupid bitch.
Shut up, I'm a man and I know what's good for me.
Bountiful penis. Amen.
Boy, my ass is sore.
You can get pink eye from farting in a pillow?
Yeah, but you gotta be bare-assed.
I'm gonna invent a toothbrush for your butthole.
It does the trick.
Paddington Bear.
He's a homewrecker?
Yeah, he wrecks homes.
You are a murderer of love.
I drink your podcast. I drink it up.
Welcome back to another episode of I Drink Your Podcast. With me today are Emily.
Hello, everyone.
And our returning friend, Brandon.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How's it going?
Really excited to have Brandon on. And as we're looking ahead to our future of this podcast, Brandon is going to be a major part of it. So we're super excited to have him on. So last week we introduced Dylan as one of the three-headed monsters that'll be our hosts on the show. And Brandon is the second head of that monster.
I'm the cool head.
Yeah,
he's definitely the cool head. So this week we watched Eastern Promises, but before we get into that, what is in your glass this evening?
Well, obviously, Eastern Promises, I had to go with a White Russian.
Oh, very nice.
You gotta have some vodka, you gotta have some coffee liqueur of some kind, and you gotta have some cream.
Very sophisticated.
Delicious.
Very sophisticated.
Brandon, what do you got this week?
I was going to get a Moscow Mule, but I decided not to. I was going to, but I just didn't have the time. So I got like a Pepsi and some honey liquor, trying to go light because I seem to get a little bit too lit on this podcast. I'm going to try and go light because I'm a lightweight.
Well, here, I got a connection for you. There are doctors in this movie. Dr. Pepper, and honey goes in tea, and it takes place in London. So
wow.
You're welcome.
You've been doing this way too long, Emily.
I really have.
I'm going just like Vigo at the party, straight vodka. So I'm just doing shots of vodka over here.
Jeez, impressive.
Hardcore.
Good luck, man.
Let me get started.
Oh, but see, you didn't have the same sort of reaction as Vigo and every other Russian in this movie where they just were like, yeah, that was like water, because it probably was.
No, that's because I don't drink nearly as much as those Russian mobsters do. Well, Brandon, welcome back. What have you, first of all, been up to recently? What's been going on?
Guys, this summer, a lot of basketball, which is a lot of fun. What else? Did sports camp. I was an extra as a football player in a couple of commercials.
Nice.
You're so cool, Brandon.
I wish, man. I wish I was as cool as those guys that I was with. Like, I was like, these guys are huge. Like, I felt like a little bitty, like, running back, but these guys are humongous. One thing that was cool when I was a football extra for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they had a whole bunch of pirates, and the people that came out in their pirate uniforms were ridiculously cool. Like, they were like real swords. They actually had like the little musket guns that looked like real guns. They were ridiculous. They were so cool. And then when they had the whole showing for it, because Triglass did the whole showing, a lot of people that, well, not a lot of people, but a handful of people that actually were pirates came as pirates to the actual showing. So it was really, really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, that was it. What else? Went to Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Which was nice.
What was it like traveling to a different island during COVID?
It was different. Like if you didn't have the paperwork, whatever was definitely keeping you at the airport. You weren't seeing no beach, no nothing. But you had to show proof that you actually had either you had a negative COVID test or you had all your vaccinations. You had to show that there. But Puerto Rico was surprisingly extraordinarily American. Like I saw more KFCs in Puerto Rico than I ever thought were even possible. But everybody was cool. I mean, like the food was great. The beach we were at was really nice. You could see straight to the bottom of the ocean. The bottom of the sand, rather. You can see from the water to the sand. What did I just drink? Water to the sand. So it was cool. It was a nice summer. It was a nice summer.
And then, have you been watching anything?
I've been watching What If.
Oh yeah,
of course you have.
It's really good. I used to read some of those comics as well, like the What If stuff. So I really like that. I did watch the whole season of Fred Can Go Fuck Himself, or what's it called?
The one with the girl from Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, I guess I've never really. I feel bad. I've never watched Schitt's Creek. I've watched parts of it.
It's the dark comedy about the sitcom wife. Is that it?
Right, and the way that it's done, I think, is really cool. Like, it's legit shot two ways. Like, you have the sitcom way, and that's how the guy's life. And then once he leaves, it goes right to being like this dark, like brooding type film, and this show, and it's really, really good. I was surprised I liked it as much.
It's called Kevin Can Fuck Himself.
Kevin Can Fuck Himself. Yep. I think it was only 8 episodes, but I liked the concept when I watched the trailer like months before it came out, and then when I watched the first 2 episodes, I was like, yeah, I can get into this. So I thought that was really good. But
nice.
Those are the 2 things I've been watching. There's some other show on Netflix, like what's it called, like Squibs?
Okay, Squid Game.
Squid Game. Yeah.
Squid Game I started too. That's what I was going to talk about.
Okay. All right.
That show.
I haven't seen it yet. I watched the trailer, and the only reason why I watched that is because there are these guys that they kind of spoof stuff. I was like, I'm forgetting people's names. They do like a lot of like anime spoofs, and they do like a lot of basketball spoofs. Like these like group of like black friends that kind of do it, and they did a spoof on that, and they were playing basketball, and the other people got like killed. And I was like, what is this? And I had to look up what it was. So when I looked up, I saw I watched maybe like the first 30 seconds of the trailer, and they were playing like red light, green light.
Yep.
And they washed like 30 people. And I was like, I gotta watch this.
So Squid Game is a Korean TV show, and it's like Parasite meets the Hunger Games and meets children's games. It's so much fun, and it's so well done, and it's on pace to be the most watched show in Netflix's history. And it's this Korean show, like you wouldn't expect it to have taken off, but it has, and it's going to be huge.
So is it like a game show, or is it like an actual show that is like not real, or what? I'm very confused on what you're talking about.
The reality TV aspect of it, like that's in Hunger Games, doesn't really exist. It's more all these people with debt kind of agree to go play this game without realizing that what they've signed up for is basically you're going to be killed if you don't win.
Got it. So it's definitely not real.
It is definitely not a real show or based on any reality.
Well, when you said Squid Games, I was like picturing like a reality TV show or like a game show. And I was like, what are you talking about?
No.
It looked amazing. And when I heard it was Korean, I was like, yes, it's probably going to be dope because there's a lot of good Korean cinema.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Yes. If you haven't seen God of High School yet,
I haven't.
It's such an incredible anime, but it's Korean and it is just phenomenal. Oh, it's so good.
Have you real quick, have you seen Train to Busan?
No, I have not.
Oh, geez.
Train to Busan?
Busan, yeah, I always butcher the name.
Yeah.
Oh, it's what I know it's kind of a played out genre, the whole zombie thing, but it's kind of what a zombie movie should be.
It is definitely one that is part of our future plans for this podcast. It will be an episode at some point down the line. That is on my list of ones we are definitely going to be doing. So, Emily, what have you been watching?
Well, I finally watched The Suicide Squad, James Gunn's Suicide Squad. I had a really fun time with it. I kind of was half watching it because, I don't know, I felt like James Gunn sometimes just goes a little too into the music of his movies. And sometimes I think it's just like overplayed where it's like, oh, needle drop here. Oh, needle drop here. Ha 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 ha. I don't know. I don't know why it bothers me so much. It really shouldn't. But I absolutely fell in love with King Shark.
Yes.
I enjoyed every aspect of like the second half of the movie. And I loved Viola Davis. Absolutely just loved how crazy she got. It was fun.
She's to the point where nobody else can do that.
No,
character.
Not at all. Like, holy crap, she killed it. But I just had a lot of fun. You know, it was just a really fun movie. And I don't know if I'd watch it again and actually like pay attention the whole time, but it'd be a nice like background, like everyone's drinking and having a fun time movie for me anyway.
Are you planning on continuing with the Peacekeeper TV show that's coming out?
I didn't know there was a Peacekeeper TV show coming out, but that does not sound interesting to me.
Okay.
But I did also start Visions Star Wars on Disney Plus, and the first episode, the animation was really cool and interesting, and the story was intriguing. And then I fell asleep in the second one because teacher life. Fall asleep at 8:00 every night. Woo!
Yep. Well, this week we did watch Eastern Promises, starring Viggo Mortensen, Naomi Watts, and Vincent Cassel, directed by David Cronenberg. Now, what's going to be a new continuing segment on this show is anytime we come across a movie that Emily hasn't seen,
which is almost all of them.
Yep. She is going to try to predict in synopsis form what the movie's going to be about based on her limited knowledge of what the movie has as far as cast, director, maybe a poster that she's seen. So, Emily, give us your synopsis for what you thought Eastern Promises would be about.
Okay. So I had to stretch a little bit because I knew it was something about mobs or gangs, and I knew Viggo Mortensen was in it, and that's all I knew. And that it was in 2007. So here we go. New England mobster Viggo Mortensen is betrayed by his long-term friend and mob boss. He loses his freedom and lands in prison. Years later, once he gets out, he swears his revenge and builds his own mob and takes over the chowder scene.
The what scene?
Chowder. With a Boston accent.
Oh, that's what that was. Sure.
Chatter.
Come on, New England.
Yeah. I mean, was she really that far off? I mean, it was kind of a mixture of History of Violence and Eastern Promises.
I don't know what the first thing is.
Well, we'll talk about History of Violence. So that's what Emily thought it was about, but here's what the movie really was about based on the people who write the back of DVD covers. Criminal mastermind Nikolai, played by Viggo Mortensen, finds his ties to a notorious crime family shaken when he crosses paths with Anna, played by Naomi Watts, a midwife who has accidentally uncovered evidence against them. Their unusual relationship sets off an unstoppable chain of murder, mystery, and deception.
They have a relationship?
Yeah, that's the part that kind of throws me off with that DVD synopsis. Like, yes, she's kind of like the impetus for some of the stuff that happens in the movie, but there's already stuff like the murder stuff is already at play before we're even introduced to Anna.
Like, who writes these things?
Some PR guy that works for the studio.
Right, is trying to sell it real quick and doesn't know how to put it all together.
Right. Probably didn't even watch the movie.
They probably just saw like screenshots of the film or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a better written one than some of the other ones we've come across.
That's
like this,
true.
at least,
this is way better.
Gets to the heart of what the movie's about.
Have you ever met a girl called Tatiana?
I met a lot of girls called Tatiana.
She was pregnant.
Ah, in that case, no, I never heard of her.
She died on my shift.
I thought you did birth.
Sometimes birth and death go together.
So this is a David Cronenberg film. Emily, have you seen any David Cronenberg movies?
I had never heard of him before.
Okay.
Ever. Literally had never heard of him before. And then when I looked up just the movies that he had done, I know that he did The Fly, which isn't that like a really famous horror movie.
Yep.
And then also, oh shit, I can't remember the name of it. Scanners.
Scanners.
So I've never seen Scanners, but here's why I know what Scanners is. There is an anime called Sword Art Online.
Okay.
And there is an abridged version of Sword Art Online that some YouTubers put together, and they redubbed it, and they're like 12-minute episodes of the whole series. And there's a part where they bring up a clip from Scanners where some heads are blowing up or something.
Yep.
And that's literally the only reason I know what Scanners is.
Brandon, what's your experience with Cronenberg movies?
It's probably the History of Violence. In that, when I think Viggo Mortensen, other than the fact that he's like the king, he's like Aragon. The movie that I think about is A History of Violence. The movie is really good, and I found out when I was doing some research that the director, the cinematographer, and the editor all worked on History of Violence as well as this film. So that's why how it has that same kind of look.
Yes.
But yeah, so for the most part, like I said, I follow cinematographers. So the cinematographer in this did the best Star Wars movie ever made, which is Empire Strikes Back. So he was the cinematographer for that. So I was like, yeah, that's why I like this. So, I like this movie altogether. He's done a few really good movies that I really liked. I had to write them down. What else do you like? Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yes.
Mars Attacks, which is probably low key one of like that director's best movies that nobody gives any credit for.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, after I saw Empire Strikes Back, I'm like, yeah, okay, now I know why I like the lighting so much. I know why I like why it's shot. It's actually a really good film. It's a really, really good film.
Yeah, History of Violence is probably the best graphic novel adaptation of any movie that exists.
I didn't even know it was a graphic novel. Really?
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
I did not know that. I did not. I thought it was. I didn't. The movie's good.
Yeah, that movie really is good. So good, and it's kind of a companion piece to this one. Like it's got a lot of the same themes, and we see a lot of the same themes go through all of the Cronenberg movies. And especially his reliance on body horror, which is kind of what he's known for. So, Emily, you mentioned that scanner scene where the heads explode. Mm-hmm. There's other movies that he's done too, where you talked about The Fly, where the man kind of starts transforming his body into that of a fly. You've got Existence, which is, if you guys haven't seen that one, I strongly suggest that one. It's about like an organic video game system that you plug directly into a port in your back. It's very good. Jude Law, Jennifer Jason Leigh, highly recommended.
So is that why a lot of the violence in this movie, like there was a lot of like slicing of necks and it was very graphic? Is that part of it? He just has that history of practical effects and gore?
Yes. So that is why we see that. And especially the way that the body horror kind of plays into the other themes of this movie, which is like identity and isolation. So you see a lot in these Cronenberg movies of people having their body change against their will, or even by choice, the change, but then the effects that those changes have on people. And we get that in Eastern Promises with the tattooing of the people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that idea of stories written on the body, which is a really nice way. And I like the way that they said that in the movie, how like all these gangsters have like these tattoos that tell the story of who they are and what they've done.
Which apparently is true in the Russian mafia or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Super disturbing. Did you all read about how Viggo Mortensen, after one day shooting, he went off and was like, people were really freaked out because they knew what some of the tattoos meant?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
And Viggo has got to be the coolest motherfucker ever.
Oh my God, right?
His first scene, I wrote down like, this dude is too damn cool for this film. Like he's just, I wonder how like method he is if he just gets into it like that, because he was just so cool.
I don't even know, but when he first walked in, I audibly gasped because he's like smoking his cigarette and he's just walking in with his cool hairstyle and his sunglasses. Actually, I don't think he had his sunglasses on at that point, but I'm like, whoa, okay. Yeah. Yeah, that is one cool motherfucker.
Yeah, he didn't win me over on first scene. It took a little bit for me to warm up to his character because the accent, it was good, but it felt weird coming out of his mouth initially. It took a little bit of getting used to because I've seen him in other movies, Lord of the Rings, Captain Fantastic, where he doesn't have that accent. So it took a little bit, but it was finally the scene where he's in the morgue, kind of chopping up the body.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I started to really get behind his character and really love what he was doing.
I mean, who puts a cigarette out on their tongue? Like you can't.
I know.
That's the most badass shit I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, I wish I smoked now, just so I could do that once to see how it felt.
No, you don't.
I do. Like, that's just look at TC, like, yeah, baby, look at somebody. He's just too cool.
Well, it's like that cool kid back in elementary school that would put out a candle with his fingers. And you were like, whoa, you're so badass.
What elementary school kid did that? Come on, Ben. It's like you have this little gang of elementary students that are hanging out on the playground with candles and they're like impressing each other by putting them out with their fingers.
You didn't have that? You didn't have the kids who found a lighter and then would test to see how long they could hold it under their hand?
Oh.
I did. I had heard.
Yeah. I mean, that maybe Duluth wasn't street enough, like the hard streets of Prior Lake.
Get out of here, Ben.
Webster Groves, watch out.
I loved the violence in this movie. The throat cutting scene in that very opening scene. I thought they were going to cut away from the cut, and they didn't, and they just showed everything, like, and it was slow too. It was very uncomfortable watching that.
I completely agree, especially with this boy who obviously is completely out of his element, and I think it was his dad or uncle or whoever Azim was forcing him to kill this man, and I didn't really know what anything was about yet. So just going right into that, I'm like, holy fuck. This is the kind of movie I'm getting into. This is not New England. This is not Chowda. Like, what the hell is this?
I really like how they jumped right out there and just said, this is what this is. They didn't sugarcoat it at all. It's like, yo, we slitting throats off rip. And this is what it's going to be. And it prepare for everything else afterwards. And it kind of, that type of violence happens twice, right? Yeah, it happens twice. And it kind of gives you up toward that bathhouse scene where it's like, even though you're still kind of appalled by some of the stuff and it's so graphic, it's everything up until that point, like when they were talking about what's in like the diary and everything up until that point kind of leads you to where, okay, there's going to be this final scene. Well, it wasn't even really final. It was kind of, that's the end of the second act almost, I think. Yeah. Like right there, that's gonna really, really, let's like, you're gonna be kind of shocked, but they set you up because not even 5 minutes into the movie, they're slitting throats. Man, that's kind of, this is the tone right here, y'all. This is the tone.
Right. And like once that part happened, it just became this slow burn for me where I unfortunately was not watching with subtitles. I couldn't get it to work. So I was actually reading the script occasionally and pause the movie to make sure that I knew what was happening and hearing what the Russian phrases were interspersed within there. And as I'm watching it, I'm so glad I went back and looked at that because I did get a lot out of the emotions of the characters and the different Russian mobsters communicating between each other and just like these veiled threats between Anna and the head Russian guy that I can't remember his name. It starts with an S. Whatever his name is, the king.
Yeah, I can't remember his name either.
It was all these veiled threats and this built up world of, Anna's uncle freaking out because he is Russian and he knows all of the secrets and things that have happened with gangs in Russia. And, her having these conversations and kind of seeing what's happening. But then we also get the inside information of what this culture is like within the gang, and it culminates in this scene of this huge fight with Viggo Mortensen and these two brothers in the bathhouse. It's just so satisfying.
Yeah. You mentioned the word gangster a lot, and this movie is a gangster movie, but it feels different.
Right.
Like, it doesn't feel like a normal gangster movie. Like, when you think of Goodfellas or Godfather, like, it doesn't feel like that. What is the difference between this one and other gangster movies? Why do you think it feels so different?
I've seen those two movies now.
That's good.
At this point in my life, I have seen those two movies now. And for the life of me, I can't really remember much about them. I know Goodfellas is like narrated the whole time. I do remember that. And I know that The Godfather, there's just a lot of nuances that I just didn't get. I was not following along very well. And I think I fell asleep halfway through. So I would not be a good person to ask about like mob or gangster films.
This one felt more Kingpin-ish to me than anything else. Like, it felt like there's like a scene where the guy with the mustache and the bald head, I can't think of his name for some reason, when he actually drives up and he comes and he's talking to the main bad guy, but he's at like a dock and it's like he's up, they have the camera position so he's up higher and he's talking down to people. Like, you never really see that in like the other two movies. You never see that in at least I can't remember seeing that at all in either one, Godfather 1 or 2, or Goodfellas, which I think arguably is better than The Godfather. But
okay.
A lot of people don't believe that, but I like it better. But like, yeah, you don't see that in any other film. He felt like he was like this is my domain, and this is it. And everybody answered to him, and he pulled all the strings, and it didn't feel like it was like a family thing like they do in like The Godfather, where he's kind of bouncing stuff off people in the table, or if it's like a team of things like or like it's like that whole group in Goodfellas where they kind of had like this whole group of people that kind of do anything against the family, blah, blah, blah. He felt he sounded like, and he felt like he was legit like the kingpin of whatever that area was. So that's kind of how it felt a little bit different to me. Even though I do like the food scenes, I like food in film.
Yeah.
So I do like the food. Like I just walk in there and just like smell some of that food. But for the most part, that's how it felt to me. It felt like they kind of spelled out he was a legit evil person. Unlike, it felt like The Godfather and Goodfellas, they were bad, but you rooted for him.
Yes.
This guy, he was evil, and that was it.
I think you nailed it on the head, Brandon. That kingpin idea of, in Goodfellas and Godfather, they want you to kind of sympathize with these mobsters as real people, like with real emotions and, varying arcs. And I'll almost feel sympathy for them at points. This movie's unrelentingly dark in its portrayal of gangsters. Like there's no real scene where you're like meant to sympathize with any of these bad guys. It's just like a dark depiction of gangsters.
Yeah, it's like they kind of snatched the humanity out of them before they even had it, before you even knew that they were even human beings at all. Like even when the guy was talking about his like son or his nephew, and he said, yeah, he's like, is he going to say anything about us coming in here and doing something to this body? And he's like, don't worry about it. He's like touched by angels or whatever. He's not going to know to say anything at all. But you're using this kid as somebody who's going to kill somebody, so you don't have to get your hands dirty. So it kind of felt like villains off, like from jump, versus again in Goodfellas and in The Godfather, you get this. Even though they, that they're bad people, they get this strong family base. It never felt like the dad really cared as much about his son. And even, I think he kind of knew some of the stuff that was being said about his son could possibly be true, just from what the relationship that him and Viggo, the son of Viggo Mortensen, had. I wonder like how deep in cover he had to actually go to be that person. Because it felt like he was so deep into it that this is all he has now.
Yeah. And
you don't really know. Like, even like that last scene, like when he's, after they get the baby and they're, how am I going too far? after they get the baby and they're actually walking away, and like you see the motorcycle there, and the motorcycle's lit. He's walking off with Slim Krill, I think.
Krill, yep.
Yeah, Krill. When like Viggo's walking away from him, it's almost like he's already made that choice that this is my life and I can't be that guy who's, did the stuff with the motorcycle or what I'm saying, is like Ashley likes the actress with like the baby and stuff. I can't be that because this is where I'm at. And even that last scene, he's sitting there by himself. It's almost like a reflection of like, he got this far that he can't turn back and be anybody else. He's this guy.
Yeah.
And like, it feels like it's that particular, I guess, outlook on the mafia, the Russian mafia, is just complete evil. Like they don't want you to like any of those people at all.
Right. I love how you said just took the humanity out. That's exactly how I felt the whole movie. And I couldn't actually express it in words. And so looking back and reflecting on the head boss, whatever the hell his name is, why I was so uncomfortable with any time he was on screen in a good way. It was like, oh, this is so hard to watch him interacting because I know it's so fake with him talking to Anna. You're right. There was no humanity. There was nothing to drive this sympathy. And I think that's why I felt like the ending was so fucking satisfying for me. Like I didn't know where anything was going to go. And by the end of it, I was like, yes, thank goodness this happened. I would have been so pissed.
Yeah, we've talked a lot in 2007 about how the movies kind of reflect the Bush presidency of the time. This movie very much feels like a reaction to the Putin presidency of Russia. Like this is like the Russian equivalent of that to me, where it's like this evil guy that's in charge, like very little humanity, will do whatever it takes to stay in charge. And Emily, you talked about the scene with Semyon is the guy's
Thank you.
The kingpin's name. That first scene where Anna goes to visit him, there is this like undercurrent of something doesn't feel right in that scene. Like he's saying all these things that, sound good, like talking to her about her family, her dad's making of borscht, like he's playing violin with the little girls, like he's doing nice things.
And he's actually playing it. Oh,
Yeah,
that was amazing.
Really
yeah, and he's doing nice things, but there's something off about it, and it's great acting from that actor to and from the director, just choosing the angles that he did to make it feel like something was off about his interactions with Anna.
Mm-hmm. And I think Anna's character reacted really well to it too. Like the fact that you could see her trying to hide her discomfort.
Yep.
In a lot of different scenes where she was trying to pass off of like I don't want to tell you where I live, but I don't want to be rude because whatever reason, like she knows something's up. Or she makes a copy of the diary, but she does it in a way that's like I want to give the diary to the little girl rather than I don't trust you kind of thing. So, but even her just like facial reactions to things, I felt like the actress and the direction, it was so well done to make you see and feel that there was something off about Semyon.
Yep.
There is a part where I was watching and I had to write it down. I was like, it feels like she knows she gave up too much information from jump.
Mm-hmm.
And then she kind of backtracks and was like, oh, well, I don't really know who these people are.
Like, oh shit.
Yeah. And then it was kind of like, it's a tad bit too late. Cause then she was like, oh, this guy is everywhere. Like he's kind of connected. And that's something I kind of picked up. Like, I think she was really good about showing that. Like, once she gets in, she's like, there's a diary. And then I think when she said there's a diary, and then he started saying other stuff, then she was like, oh fuck, I shouldn't have said that. Like, oh, where do you work? But she already said where she worked. And I was like, man, damn, she messed up everything. Like, that's like,
mm-hmm.
That's the stuff you just don't do in in general public at all. You know, all that information. And so I think when she caught herself up, we said, okay, yeah, I know I'm in trouble because there's probably more to this.
Well, and speaking of giving up way too much information, this movie does have a narrator throughout. And it's played by the woman who gives birth to the baby and then dies through her diary.
The 14-year-old.
Okay, the young girl.
Thank you.
Yep. What did you guys think about this narrative device in this movie?
Okay, I actually really liked it. I know that narration is kind of a tough subject with a lot of people that like film, just film critics and anyone that just is a cinephile. But I actually really liked it. And I like that it sometimes complemented and enhanced the scene. But there were other times that it really contrasted the scene that was happening. And I can't think of like some really specific moments. It was more of a feeling where as she's talking, we're not quite sure what the diary entry is fully about, or maybe we now have the full picture and it kind of settles differently. And so I felt like it was at least an interesting transition choice as we kind of built up into the tension of the movie.
And I think the difference between cinephiles liking narration and not is that this is very much a case of thematic narrative and narration, where it's really hammering home the themes of the movie, whereas the narration that people tend to hate is expository narration, where it's telling you things that are happening or have happened.
Right.
Like this feels more like it's because it's told from the past and from the perspective of this character who we've been introduced to. It just feels a little more complementary to the rest of the film.
There's a lot more weight to it.
Yes, than just the narration of Smoking Aces, where it's literally just an exposition dump of here who these people are.
That could have been such a better movie.
Right.
Not to go on a tangent, but I was really interested in like Common and Alicia Keys and what's the other girl's name? Why am I forgetting her name?
Taraji P. Henson.
I was more interested in that. I was really hoping if they ever did like a sequel that maybe she didn't get killed all over, maybe she was just hurt really bad and they all three do something. Because it felt like there was so much in that dynamic, especially between Taraji P. Henson and Alicia Keys. I wanted to see like, okay, well, how long have they been working together and how long has she kind of been crushing on her? And then like, how does this kind of work? Like, I wanted to see more of that. And everything else was cool, but it felt like it was just enough to be like, oh, this is really cool. Now it's going to something else. Like it was never fleshed out.
Yep, that's the whole movie.
Yeah, that's the one group I want to be like, just give me more of them and see how that actually works. Sorry about tangent. That's what.
No, that's okay, because that movie's full of fight scenes, and this movie has a very memorable fight scene in it, which is that bathhouse fight scene.
Oh my God. And not even like sexual, oh my God, just like the technical aspects of how perfectly executed it was by all the actors and the intensity of it and how it was built up. And like, I knew it was going to happen. And he had his tattoos of the stars on his chest and his knees and everything. And I just knew it was happening. And suddenly it's happening. And I did not expect to suddenly see Viggo Mortensen's balls and penis all over the screen. But it wasn't distracting. It wasn't like, I need to like, penis, you know, it was a desperate survival moment. And it was also, you could see all the technique. Like, obviously, Nikolai had some dark secrets and things, like, but we hadn't seen anything too drastic. This was the scene where I was like, oh shit, you are really excellent at a lot of things, apparently. And you have some secrets.
All the secrets was out, cuz.
Those secrets were all over the screen.
One of the secrets was just sitting right out for you to see. It was actually good. It was actually, that's probably the scene that, again, this movie and History of Violence are the two movies when I think Viggo, other than him being the king, like I said before, these are the two movies. And that scene right there is like, I don't know how you beat two guys' ass, you butt naked, and you smoke both of them right there. I'm like, this is probably one of the better fight scenes I've seen in a while.
Absolutely. And the nudity like perfectly plays into the themes of the movie. Like, there's a reason he's nude, and it adds to like a level of vulnerability to him that you actually can like feel how vulnerable he is. And when like the knife comes and slices his rib cage, it's like, like you can feel it even though you're not in it. And I think that's really cool. And then the fact that it comes in the wake of him getting this, like, we're going to go back to body horror. His body's been transformed by these tattoos, and now his body is in a fight for survival. It's so on theme with Cronenberg, and it's incredible that he's able to do that. And that's why, like, seeing his penis, it's like, there's nothing sexy about his penis in that scene. Like, it's very unsexy nudity.
No, I know.
Yeah. But the nudity is used to tell a story, which I think is one of the only reasons to have nudity in a movie. Like, there's nothing titillating in my mind about that scene. Emily, were you titillated?
I mean, I will always be titillated by Viggo Mortensen, but you're absolutely right. You know, watching this scene, it was this incredible moment where I got to see Viggo Mortensen at his finest, where we had all of this build up and then this incredible climax of the tension of just watching him be his full character. And we, at that point, the audience doesn't know that he is, spoilers, is a double agent. And it just seems like he's so desperate for survival, but you don't really get the weight of it later. So then even after that moment, after he's in the hospital, it landed even harder what that scene meant to him.
Well, you brought up the twist, so let's talk about that now. What are your thoughts on it?
I remember when I first saw it, I was like, "Damn, he's a Fed. He's working for what was it, the KBS or
KBG, but actually FBG."
Right. I'm like, I didn't know he was. I'm like, oh, and I had to stop and think, like, that explains a lot how how he didn't get rid of the uncle for real. Like, you see a lot of stuff that leads up to it, like when, like, the whole body with the note in it, and then the whole when he's with the I guess I don't want to call her a prostitute because she was kind of forced into it, but the lady he ends up being with while the other guy watches.
Oh, the Ukraine woman.
Yeah, and then like he's actually, it's like money in like a card there. And then the guy says, "Yeah, man, they just came in and they just got her for no reason. I don't know how they took her." And I'm thinking like, okay, well, what's all going on?
Right. It felt kind of random at first for me, but later all the pieces lined up.
Yeah. When I first watched it, I was like, oh, now I get it. So the second time I watched it, and when I first watched it again, it was probably literally 2007. When I watch it now, I was like, oh, okay, I see all this stuff now. Okay, now I can see all this stuff and how it makes sense. And he's always been like that. Like he's always been on the low like that. And he kind of got to this point. But again, what I said before, like you wonder how deep he's gone, because like they actually mentioned that somebody mentioned that the son was like gay or something like that.
Yeah.
At one point. But you see his daughter at the end, right? Isn't that his daughter he's talking to when he's doing the balloons? Is that his daughter? Or is that his niece?
I think it's his relation. Niece. Yeah, I don't think it's his daughter.
No.
Okay, and then like their whole relationship, like at the end, you kind of see how like they're kind of embracing a little bit differently. And I was like, well, maybe like how far deep is this guy going in to actually get where he's gotten? So it was definitely a pretty big twist. When I first watched it. The second watch, it was like, okay, I see all the clues now. But the first time I was like, oh shit.
So when I first saw this movie, it was back in 2007 also. And the only scene I remembered before this watch was the bathhouse scene. So the twist, it didn't even stick in my mind, and it caught me off guard again in this movie because it's so not flashy in the way that they do it. Like you think of these twists in movies and they're like really flashy and cinematic. And this is literally just a guy talking to another guy on a bench. Like it's a lot of confidence in the twist that Cronenberg doesn't overflash it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really successful.
I completely agree with that. You know, I almost missed it, honestly. Like when the police showed up to the hospital, I was like, oh fuck, like some shit's gonna go down. Nikolai's going to kill the police. I don't know what's going to happen, like whatever. And it's just this casual conversation. And I was so blown away by the fact that he was undercover, but everything kind of fit together nicely. Even the pieces that I was like just accepting before, I realized that there was meaning behind every single detail in the movie.
I remember rewinding that part, and I'm like, wait, what the fuck just happened? Hold on, wait, what? I'm like, he's just talking to him? I was like, oh, and then when he kind of mentioned it and he showed up, I was like, oh shit. Like that's it. It was, again, like you guys said, so subtle. Mm-hmm. It's just like, hey, you know, I'm fed. I've been fed forever. And this is, and you kind of wonder, like, have they probably been meeting and having conversations like this forever? And that told you how deep he's been in, how long he's been in there. It was done very well. Very, very well.
And speaking of almost missing it, I almost missed the plot point that Kirill was gay. And because they kind of glossed over it, and I almost missed it in the dialogue the first time. So I think they reveal he's gay is it just before the stripper scene?
I think it was when the guy was like, well, why did you kill him? And I think that's when he got the information. Oh, they said he drinks too much and he's gay. And I was like, oh. Again, that's something I didn't think about either. And I didn't realize how much they're kind of low key bashing black people in this too. I'm like, man, black people kind of got bashed in this a little bit. Yeah. Times. But like, I didn't, it was so subtle that it felt like it was like, oh yeah, he drinks and he's gay. Mm-hmm. But you don't really see any of those cues until you don't pick up on until maybe the end. And that's when I was like, oh, he's really holding on to him a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was going to say that I believe it was the first time that we hear that he's gay is when Viggo Mortensen is talking to Kirill's father. And Kirill's in the basement, supposed to pick up the bourbon or whatever alcohol or something. I'm pretty sure that was the first time that there was any sort of specific dialogue towards that.
Sure.
But obviously, when Viggo Mortensen is fucking the Ukrainian prostitute, there is definitely some sort of connection there that I didn't pick up on until later. Like I definitely was like, okay, this is kind of weird, but whatever. I just kind of accepted it as this is Russian mobster hazing.
Sure.
That was kind of how I felt about it.
Yeah, that's how I thought about it too.
But the relationship between Kirill and his father was so strained, I felt, the whole way through. It reminded me a lot of just my own grandfather and his relationship with one of his sons who's gay, and just like the tension between them. There's just like this betrayal and hatred. but maybe it's not completely outspoken because there's still blood. And like, obviously it's a little bit more important to Semyon that his son is a part of the community. And even at the end with Nikolai, like you said, Brandon, like they're very close, or like how undercover, but there's this tenderness. You know, it honestly, it reminds me a lot of Aragorn just being very tender with his friends by the end of the movie because they have gone through so much together. And so I felt more of it as a kinship rather than like a relationship. And I think Kirill also understands that. At least that's what I got from it.
I don't know, though, because I think he plays off of the love that Kirill has for him to get him to betray his father at the end. Like, I think Viggo utilizes knowing that Kirill is gay and has some feelings for him to really play Kirill to get to Viggo's ultimate goal.
Possibly.
Right. And I was thinking that too, but it seems like the way he kind of interacts with Kirill is kind of like how he kind of interacts with what's the main actress's name?
Naomi Watts.
Right. Naomi Watts. It's like it kind of overlaps a bit. Like I think he genuinely cares, even though it's like, how can I put this? It feels like maybe at one point he was just using him and that was it. But I think he cares enough to be like, okay, your dad's a dick. Like I get it now. And I think I think some of that is him actually being like, well, this guy doesn't really have anybody. So I think he kind of does really care a little bit, even though it's like to the end that he actually becomes a kingpin or becomes like, you know, head of that Russian mafia himself. But I think some of it is a little bit more genuine than not in a certain sense. Cause I think that embrace didn't feel like he like, yo, I'm just going through the motions. It felt like it was a little bit like, yeah, man, you got a lot of shit going on. Like that's kind of how it felt. At least that one did. The other ones before, it's like, yo, man, come on, move your ass. That one felt like, yo, dude, you really fucked up. If you're going to try and kill a kid, like, you really fucked up. So, like, I need to kind of, it felt like at the end, like, it felt like even though he was there and he was in the spot that he wanted to be in that final scene, it felt like there was so much other stuff going on. And I think that maybe the mob boss's son was kind of, I think, a part of that. It felt like he was in a deep enough thought to where, like, you know, how can I manage this relationship and not get this kid killed? I think he actually genuinely cares about him in some respect.
Why do you think this movie's called Eastern Promises?
Fuck if I know.
The naming of movies always throws me off. Like, they chose the name Eastern Promises. Like, what do you think the meaning of that is?
East Russia.
Yep, nailed it.
Promising to not betray people.
Okay.
Dude, I don't know. I thought this movie was about New England mobsters and chowder.
In Boston, in the Celtics.
Actually, originally, prior to knowing that it was about mob stuff, I definitely thought Eastern Promises had some sort of Asian relation. Like I felt like there was some sort of like when you think of out east, when in the Western hemisphere of super white Britain and America terms, like east, you think Asia usually. So, I mean, technically Russia is part of Asia. So, but you usually don't think Russia as east.
I have an idea of why it might be called that. And I think it comes down to the narration of Tatiana, where she's kind of talking about how, you know, she moved over to London with the promise of a better life, but ultimately it was like sex trafficking basically. And the promises wasn't fulfilled. So it's these promises of a better life moving away from Russia. But if we're having a hard time figuring out why this movie is called that, does that make it a bad title?
Good question.
I don't know.
It's not a flashy title. It's not memorable. Like it's.
I don't know if it needs to be flashy, but I also think that there's a part of like just being a writer where you can have that satisfaction of knowing for yourself and letting others interpret it. So I don't know. I didn't really think too hard about the title. But now that I'm having this conversation with you, I'm appreciating more about like what was the writer's purpose behind it.
Well, and a lot of the times titles of movies aren't decided by the writer. Like, that's so I don't know how much we can dive into authorial intent when it comes to this title, because studios have to market movies. And the studio eventually, even if this was the author's title, signed off on this.
Mm.
So I don't know. I struggle with that because just hearing the name Eastern Promises, like that doesn't, it's not a very memorable title to me.
I guess when I think about it, just not necessarily the title, but like the what's going on in the particular film itself, is this one of the first films that kind of really touches on that whole trafficking girls? Like from certain, I can't think of anything before this. And I mean, again, it's the second time I watched it, and I don't think again, the bathhouse scene overtakes everything in this whole film.
Yeah.
But like I didn't realize, I'm like, oh, they're trafficking women. And that's how she ends up in the situation she's in. I can't think of any other film until, I mean, only maybe Taken, but Taken was like what? 2010?
10? That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was a junior in high school.
So I can't think of anything that actually dealt with human trafficking. And it really wasn't, it was kind of like low key, like, oh, she was human trafficked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just kind of a flippant like plot point.
Right. And I can't think of any film before then that I've even seen or heard of that dealt with that.
I mean, you can't really call a movie 14-year-old prostitution.
No, you can't. I mean, nobody would watch that.
Well, would that even really describe what happens in this movie?
No, but it's better than Eastern Promises of what's happening in the movie.
That's true. Was there anything else that stood out for you all that we haven't talked about?
Okay, I did really love the motorcycle banter. I thought that was kind of sweet and interesting in learning about Nikolai. And honestly, one of the quotes that he says, he's like talking about sentimental value. And he's like, I've heard of that. It's just so funny to me. And there were moments of that I just giggled at, not expecting a ton with this kind of gritty, dark mobster movie. But otherwise, I think most of the things that I liked, one of you touched on. Oh, Brandon, you talked about the food in movies. Dude, when we first walk into the restaurant and they do a quick pan of some of the food on that table getting ready for Christmas. Oh, that was just gorgeous. I loved it. I just wanted, you're right, Brandon, I just wanted to smell it all and eat it all because I loved that scene.
Yeah, that was really cool. One thing I do like, I like the contrast of colors in the actual in the restaurant.
Yes.
The greens, the reds, the floor, the red carpet. There's some green pillars. That's one thing I did mention is the contrast in it. Also the scene, I think it's the lady, is it his mom or his aunt's 100-year birthday or something like that they're celebrating? I think
the party scene, yeah.
Yeah, the party scene. The one thing I always like in films is how you can tell who's an actor and who's not. And you can tell like who's like, I'm like, that's probably just somebody's family. Say, hey, I got some aunts and stuff, come over. And it felt like it just wasn't, that felt like it wasn't acted. And then when somebody comes in, it's like, oh, it's just such a big contrast of seeing like, oh, these guys are actors. These people are just here to be extras.
Yeah.
The last scene with the motorcycle is probably my favorite scene in it because it says so much about them walking into the shadows and going into pools of light, and the motorcycle's right there.
Yeah, I kind of wanted it to end there. Like, I appreciated knowing that Christine, the baby, was adopted by Anna, who earlier we get a glimpse, just like a quick racist comment from Uncle whatever, Stefan or something, about her having a miscarriage. And I don't know, I felt like it was unnecessary to finish with seeing Christine with Anna. But I don't know. I just didn't think that was what the story was about.
I agree with that. My two favorite shots of this movie are from a scene that we haven't really talked about, which is the tattoo ceremony.
Oh, that was kind of creepy.
Yeah, I love the shot of him standing in front of the other gangster panel, and they're all lit really brightly, and he's kind of got this darkness on his back, and he's front lit. I thought that was a really cool scene. Yeah, and then when they show him getting the tattoo on the knee, and he's kind of vulnerably sitting on that restaurant bench, I think that's a really powerful shot too.
Mm-hmm. That has to be the oldest tattoo needle ever.
Yes.
in the world.
So from what I'm hearing, we all liked this movie.
Yes.
Is there anything that we didn't like about this movie? Like, let's nitpick a little bit.
Just like I said, just the ending with Christine and Anna, whatever. I didn't like that we circled back to that. I just did not think it was necessary to do that. I felt like we finished the story on Nikolai, and we could make the connection that Christine was going to be safe with Anna because she was literally holding her. And so I really felt like Brandon, you said, that was one of the most powerful scenes with just the cinematography and just the emotion, the heightened emotion that we just had, where Kirill was about to kill the baby and he was just heartbroken over it and crying. It didn't feel like it needed to happen.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I was not a big fan of the Scotland Yard exposition dump that was kind of just placed in the middle, where we're introduced to the KBG guy that comes back at the end. I thought him coming on and talking about the stars and explaining the tattoos, I either needed that scene to not exist or to have more scenes with that character to make his appearance at the end of the movie mean something more.
I can get on board with that. That was like right after was it Chechenian? You're talking about the guy that they find the body.
They find the body in the water, and we see the shot on the beach, and the two Scotland Yard guys are talking about the tattoos and how they know who this guy is.
Right. That's what I thought. Yeah, no, I would agree with you. It would have been nice to see him at least again before we saw him a third time, just because, like, I still knew who he was, but you're right. It did feel just kind of put in the movie.
Yep.
Just to add exposition.
Well, it's, I didn't know that much about Russian mafia, so I knew nothing about the stars.
Same.
And I would never have known that. Like, oh, they got star tattoos on them. Like now, since watching that movie, I see some people with like tattoos on their knees. I look, I'm like, what is this guy? But like I kind of needed that just for that reference. I don't know how they could have explained that, I guess, throughout the film easier.
Well, I mean, Kirill's got a line where he kind of pulls back his thing and he's like, this is my birthmark. And he shows a star. Like, that at least gets to the heart of it, maybe without explicitly saying what it is. Like,
yeah,
I just feel like there would have been a more organic way within the Russian mobsters to talk about that and explain that away instead of getting this outsider perspective on it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm nitpicking.
You're being very nitpicky right now,
very
Ben.
nitpicky, yeah.
And I do think you're right about seeing the investigator. You only see him, 3 times throughout the whole film? Twice. And then the time that he gets out of the car at the end and they draw the blood from that's it. It would have been nice to see a little bit more to make it seem like he was kind of like for real investigating something, not instead of sitting back and waiting.
But otherwise, I really loved this movie. I knew that I would love Viggo Mortensen because I always do. And I knew that it was going to be interesting. But I had no expectations going into this. And this has probably gone up to one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh,
wow.
I know, right?
Wow.
I was like not expecting to love it this much, but I really did. I really liked it.
Brandon, how about you? What are your final thoughts on this one?
I've liked it. I've always liked it. But again, the bathhouse scene I can't get past that. It's so good. It is again, when the first 5 minutes, it sets you up for this is how the film is going to be. And it doesn't pump fake. It doesn't step away from it. It's that the whole time. And that's what I liked about the film. Like it didn't let you turn away and be like, okay, we're going to pull it back a little bit, not be as gory or not be as blunt. It was what it was from start to finish. And I really like it. I think it's, again, this one and the History of Violence, I think the two films I think about the most when I go back to Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, I think I still like A History of Violence more than this one. I haven't seen that one in a long time, though. I need to go back and watch it now. But this movie is such a slow burn movie, and it's so confident in what it's putting out there that it's willing to just be slow and know that the audience is going to be able to hang on with them and not, get bored. Because some complaints about this movie that I've heard is this is a boring movie. And it's like, well, if you're not getting lost in the characters and in the dramatic tension going on, then I can see how you would think it's boring. But for me, that slow build and the slow rollout of information as we learn about these characters is just a really, really well done filmmaking, and major props to Cronenberg.
Okay, game on! Game on! Game on!
So we've got a game today, and Emily's going to play.
Yay!
And the title of the game today is, let's see that dick to dick.
Is this a game of if you want to see someone's dick to dick?
That would have been a funny game. We should have done that.
It would have been a really funny game.
No, this is actually more of a film history one. So,
well, then I'm really going to fuck it up then. Cool.
I think you're going to be okay. So, female nudity is usually the one that gets the big attention. But, there's been a lot of male actors in movies who have been nude. So, Emily, I'm going to give you an actor, and you tell me if we've seen their peignoir on screen before.
Okay. Brandon, will you keep track of the ones I get correct?
I didn't drink enough for this. Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
Okay, 60 seconds on the clock, and away we go. David Bowie.
No.
We have
not seen. What? Where? I want to see it.
Jason Segel.
Yes.
Correct. Jim Carrey.
No.
Correct. Robin Williams.
Oh, God. Yes.
Correct.
Oh, no.
Michael Fassbender.
Yes.
Correct. Ben Affleck.
No.
Incorrect. Brad Pitt.
Damn it. No.
Correct. Tom Cruise.
I feel like no one has seen his penis before, so I'm going to go with no.
Incorrect.
Damn
you mean no one at all, or no one in
yes,
a movie?
No one at all.
Okay, we're going to keep going. Johnny Depp.
No.
Correct. Heath Ledger.
Yes.
Correct. Bruce Willis.
Yes.
Correct. How many did she get?
That's 8.
8. Wow, Emily. You know a lot about penises.
Wait, how many men was that?
That was 11. She got 8 out of 11.
Hey, that's not bad.
That's
I'm still really disappointed that I haven't seen a movie with David Bowie's penis in it besides like The Labyrinth.
The Man Who Fell from Earth. Check it out.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
Okay.
Did not know that.
Which one is Tom Cruise? Is that Eyes Wide Shut?
No, that's I think it's All the Right Moves.
Super old. That's like 80 something. Yeah.
Okay. And Emily, you
He's
got
just
a little
guy.
Oh. Emily, you've got some mini twits questions for us today, right?
I do. I have some mini twits questions. So just give me your gut reactions. I just came up with some fun little questions that I want to hear some gut reactions for. So our first question, we get a lot of Russian mobsters and gangster movies and just like tropes around Russian gangster movies, right? So which country really needs a gangster movie?
India.
Ooh,
that would actually be really
that's
cool.
A good answer.
And not like some campy, like, Bollywood one, but I'm talking about like for real, just grimy.
Yeah, we get a little bit of that in Slumdog Millionaire. Like there's a little bit of gangster-ness to that.
But you want full-on gangster movie in India.
I want full-on, that
would be cool.
I want the same treatment that the Yakuza gets. I want them to get that in India.
All right. This is the second one. Honestly, this was my first thought about like Eastern promises. I was like, what would Western promises be about? I was really going with the cowboy, like in my head. I don't know what exactly. I was like, how are we doing this? Is this just like Russia as cowboys? Like that's kind of what I was thinking.
Honestly, when you said Western, my first thought was dressing, like salads.
The harder they fall, maybe. Just
okay.
40 Acres and a Mule. That's what I'm thinking. But that's just me being black on that. That's me being strongly black. But I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe Western Promises is like the secret title for like the Tupac Biggie movie that we need to get.
Oh.
And it's it's not a great title, just like Eastern Promises isn't.
Western Promises. How bad the Cowboys are every single year in football, and everybody's really good. That sounds really like it should be.
All right, I got one more question for you. You ready?
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
So this is the second naked fight scene in 2007 that we've covered. Beowulf.
Oh, God. Yeah. I thought of Shoot 'em Up for a second.
Oh, that's true. That is another naked
This movie is very similar to Shoot 'em Up.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so I'm sorry. Let me back up. This is the third naked fight scene in 2007 that we've seen. But like, what other movies need some naked fight scenes in them?
You know, I think Alvin and the Chipmunks would have been a better movie.
With some naked fight scenes?
Yeah.
Naked fight
Yeah.
scenes.
Yeah, keep it at 2007, you know?
And these have to be movies from 2007?
No,
it can be any movie.
I was going to say Balls of Fury.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, put new meaning to that title.
I think Fast and the Furious, I think half of that should just be naked. Sometimes I think some of those movies would be a lot more interesting. And I've seen all of them, and it's just like, some of it's like, okay, you guys are superheroes now. And the rest of it is like, oh, this is actually kind of interesting, but I'm losing interest.
I mean, Vin Diesel kind of already looks like a penis. And on that note, thanks for joining us for Eastern Promises. Hey, Brandon, thanks so much for being here with us.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. This is always fun. I just like you guys actually thought about me to kind of bring me into the fold. So thank you very much.
We love everything you bring. You got anything you want to plug before you go?
Yeah, 2 friends. I always got friends that are doing something cool.
Yeah.
2 friends. One is Anthony Cousins. He's actually from the Minneapolis area. He finished his first feature film. It's called Frogman. I don't know when it's supposed to come out, but he just finished that. Then another friend of mine who actually had a film that's in post-production, but she actually finished one not so long ago, Nina Stacks, which is basically Candace Banks. Her first feature film, she actually premiered it in Memphis. It's called Aftermath, and that's supposed to be out for streaming on 1st of December. I'm not too sure what streaming platform, but she has that out. And she also has another thing that's out on streaming. It's called New Year, New Us, and that's been a series she's been doing for the last 3 years.
That's awesome.
So she's doing some pretty big things. So
Brandon's got lots of friends.
I got friends.
Cool shit.
I'm glad I do. So when things go wrong and I need some money, hey, I'll be an extra. Or that's why you keep plugging people. But no, I'm really proud of her. She went to the same school I went to, and so did Anthony. Anthony went to a film school here in Minnesota, and then Candace went to a college in Missouri. And I'm really proud of them. They do a lot of big things. They stuck with it. They went from being cinematographers to being full-time directors. So.
Awesome.
It's always good to see.
That's so cool.
Well, thank you so much again. Emily, thanks for joining me this week.
Anytime.
And next week, right? You're going to come back with me next week?
I guess so. What movie are we watching?
We're going to watch 3:10 to Yuma.
Oh, 3:10.
Emily, have you seen that movie?
No, I have not.
Okay.
It's so good.
So
what do you know about that movie, Emily?
I know nothing about it, but
okay.
I did think it was called 310 to Yuma.
Okay.
I assumed maybe it was something about 300 plus 10 more, and they're going to Yuma.
Yeah.
It make sure you watch the remake, not the original.
Well, we're going to watch the one from 2007 because it's a 2007 podcast.
I'm just saying, because you can get like, what is this? No, it's such a good Western. It's so good.
Well, now I know it's a Western.
She knows it's a Western.
It's a Western.
Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Now it's called Western Promises. And we'll see you next time.
Next week, too, we're going to have Matt back with us to watch this movie. And thank you so much for listening to our podcast. Please like, rate, subscribe, share with a friend or two. And you can follow us on social media at IDYP_podcast on Twitter or Instagram. And you can email us at idrinkyourpodcast@gmail.com. So thank you for your support, and we look forward to coming back next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
See y'all later. Take it easy.